So Peggy, you brought with you a couple of books.
Yes, I mentioned that we use Jefferson's documentation of the garden to help us to decide what we're going to plant and where we're going to plant it. And he kept a garden diary for most of his life, beginning at the age of 23 until 2 years before he died. So this diary is an amazing document. Yeah. Now, this is an edited version that includes all references that to the gardens in letters and notes and memos. So this is a 600-page book that we use all the time to help us understand what he had in mind with his gardens, and it's an amazing book that is...
You're very spoiled in the world of historic preservation to have access to something like that. Not all sites have something so tremendous.
I know, it's a lot of historic sites are a little bit envious of our documentation, but it's fabulous.
And this here is...
That shows a page. It's blown up from the original size. His handwriting was very small and neat, but this shows the script of Jefferson's own hand on his first page of his garden diary when he was still living at Shadwell, and he was noting the wildflowers in bloom and also flowers in his garden as well, observing when they came into bloom and when they finished flowering.
How wonderful! And then in addition to his work, his own words,
we use another book by Bernard McMahon, who was a seedsman from Philadelphia, and Jefferson obtained the first edition of his book in 1806, and he got it at the perfect moment when he was planting his flower gardens. He was planning to retire in 3 years, and so he was studying this book, and he obtained a lot of seeds and plants and bulbs from Bernard McMahon. And so we use this book because it has a lot of plants listed in it as well that helps us to expand what we can grow in the gardens.
Really interesting, great information. Now, you brought with you some of the things that we talked about in the studio. You want to start with?
Yes, well, here's our caracalla bean, the snail vine, and it's a little worse for wear, but it's still beautiful. And you can see here the seed pods have a long way to go to ripen.
So how would you know that they were ripe?
Well, they turn kind of a tan brown color, and when they ripen, I wished I had a dried pod for you because they actually twist open and the seeds explode out of the pods. But if you grow it, a lot of times you have to bring it indoors to get the seed to ripen. I grow a plant that I've had for about 15 years that I keep in a pot, and I drag it into my basement right before the hard frost, and I allow the seeds to ripen in my basement, and then I cut it back and let it go dormant.
Wonderful. So. And then you also have these guys.
These are the balsam pear, and this one opened up before it turned yellow, but usually it turns bright yellow and it gets larger, but this gives you an idea of what it does when it opens up. And the same with the balsam apple. This one has opened up and shows you those sticky seeds. Now the seeds, if you don't like peeling that sticky coating off the seed, you can actually lay it on the ground and let ants eat it off because they love it.
And then it becomes a nice tan color.
Yes, and then this is a seed that's been cleaned off, and the name Momordica refers to gnawing or eating, and it's referring to the serrated edges of this seed, which look like something that's been gnawing on it. So
great name.
Yeah.
And then you brought with you some of the celosia.
Yes, I did. The coxcomb is just one of the most outstanding plants in the garden, and this one is one of the biggest we've ever grown. I just can't get over it. And this also shows where the seeds are forming in this kind of the fasciation of the plant. They're little flowers that have no petals. They're just, but they do form these black seeds that we scrape them out of this the head of the coxcomb. And the reason we want to save these, we dry them and use them. They can be used in dry flower arrangements, but we also use them for our wreath workshops. We can break these heads down into smaller pieces, and they can be pinned into wreaths. And we have like a dozen public wreath workshops in the
and I have seen the results of those, and they're
beautiful. Yes.
And then this is a relative.
That's a relative. This is Lovelace bleeding, and it also makes a seed that's it's like the grains that you get the amaranth cereal. It's the same sort of thing.
Sure.
And these are kind of a pinkish color. They're not the black seeds like in coxcomb.
Beautiful.
And then this is also Joseph's coat that we were admiring in the garden with the beautiful orange and red bracts. And so these are the flowers. These are the actual flowers of this plant. And again, we're going to be collecting seed. We kind of scrape them out and blow them and clean the seed that way.
Very interesting. And then you brought a couple of guys that we didn't see while we were out there.
Right. I brought some plants, other plants that we use in our wreath workshops, and so we're drying okra. These are totally overgrown okra.
Wouldn't be very tasty.
You would
at
never
this
want to
point,
eat,
right?
but we allow them to do this because when they dry in the garden, they turn this beautiful tan color, and the edges of the pod will split open, and they are almost like a wooden
element that you can add.
Yes, yeah, it's beautiful, and of course we want to get seeds from these as well, so you can kind of split these, split one side with a butter knife and open it up and pull the seeds out. But again, we use this for our wreath workshops. And
as well as the sesame, right?
As well as sesame. Again, this is another plant that Jefferson grew. This is what it looks like when the seed pods are immature, and as they ripen, they'll turn tan, and the seeds will just fall out like that.
Yeah.
You can put them in a bag and save the seed, and then these can be attached to wreaths as a nice natural element. Same with the blackberry lily, which is not an annual, but it is an iris that Jefferson grew, and
Pretty
it's
orange.
beautiful orange and spotted red flowers, and then these seed pods burst open, and the seeds are like clusters of blackberries inside.
So two things you touched upon. One, the wreath workshop. Those start happening.
The first one is on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving,
wonderful.
and they'll go for 2 weeks in early December.
Great opportunity. And then if someone is interested in growing these, they can actually purchase seeds.
They can. We have an online catalog, and we're selling seed year-round that way. And also at the museum shop at Monticello, have a wonderful display of the seeds that we actually collect and package from the gardens
I
at
think
Monticello.
is pretty fabulous that you can
Yes,
grow what
yeah.
Thomas was growing in his
That's
garden.
right. That's right.
As
Carry
always,
them on.
Peggy, wonderful information, and
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate you sharing it with us.